just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home.
A young woman he was talking to says that, well, Nolan said he was going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys say that Nolan told them he was going to stay and talk to the young woman. It's a contradiction. They're not saying the same thing. One of them is telling the truth, one of them is not.
So to tell us don't rush to judgment saying it was racist is fine. But then I'm telling you, don't rush to judgment saying it was not racism. Because we do not know.
4 days after Nolan Wells' body was recovered, his family stood in front of cameras in Harlem, New York. Not to grieve publicly, but to say on the record that the story they'd been told doesn't add up. Beside them stood civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton. Behind them was a case that had already gone viral once, over a video nobody could verify. Now the family was raising something different, a missing phone, deleted messages, and a stretch of hours between a call for help and an actual search that no one has fully explained. This is what the Wells family says happened, and it's what investigators still haven't confirmed. You're watching Morbid True Crime, psychological true crime documentaries examining the decisions, evidence, and behavior behind real criminal cases.
This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son, but here we are. So, as you know, I'm Christine Wells-Wansley. I am Nolan Wells' mom. And Nolan is the kindest soul. He never met a stranger. He loved everybody. He didn't care if you were black, white, purple, green, looked like a marshmallow. Like, he just wanted everyone to be in peace with one another. He loved life, and God gave him this big heart, which always scared us. Me and his dad had conversations with him all the time, not just about the importance of understanding our history as black people, but also the importance of how you have to move in certain spaces. And it's not us being, feeding into racism or the stereotypes that comes with that. Unfortunately, that is just a matter of fact. There have been many cases, many instances that shows it's unfortunately a pattern that he did not like. He did not like that there was so much division, and I think that's why God gave him us. He was really a peacemaker. He wanted, like I said, everyone to be included. He never wanted to leave anyone out.
In the days after Nolan Wells' body was found off Horn Island, the official account of his death remained simple. Sheriff John Ledbetter said investigators had been told Wells chose to stay behind when his friend's boat left, planning to return to the mainland with a different group later. No foul play was suspected. A drowning, most likely pending toxicology.
They left and went back without Nolan. From what we understand, he chose to stay there.
But almost as soon as that explanation became public, the Wells family said pieces of it didn't sit right with them.
What we've been told does not make sense. And being that there is lack of confidence in the local authorities, who have already, in my judgment, seemed to have mishandled where it was going. Because to just immediately, before a week time, saying there was nothing done wrong, when we hear that this young man was engaged in some kind of argument that was on tape, that his cell phone and keys ended up with one of the people that were there on the island and got away. He was one black with 3 young white men who happened to end up with his phone, happened to end up with his kids. Then there's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation.
Wells's father told Ben Crump his son was a strong swimmer, which, in the family's eyes, made an accidental drowning harder to accept at face value.
And we know that Nolan was a great athlete on the football field. Do we have any sense of how comfortable he was around water and boats?
You know, his father said he was an elite athlete, that he prided himself on his physical prowess. He said that his son could swim, and so they're just not accepting that Nolan drowned accidentally.
His grandfather, Christopher Wells Sr., asked publicly how an island searched one day could produce his grandson's body the next morning. Individually, none of these were evidence of a crime. Together, in the family's account, they were the beginning of a list of things that needed answers. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office's public position stayed consistent through the search, and after the recovery. Investigators did not suspect foul play, the investigation remained open, and the public was asked to be patient while toxicology and autopsy results were completed, a process officials said could take a couple of weeks. From the family's perspective, patience was exactly what felt unavailable. By Tuesday, the Wells family had retained Ben Crump, whose office announced it would conduct an independent review, press for the release of records, witness accounts, and autopsy findings, and separately examine the viral video that had already been circulating since the day Wells disappeared.
So the family is concerned about that. So we're going to have an independent autopsy. We have investigators talking to witnesses that have no alignment or no allegiance to the state. And that's important, Lindsay. When you think about Mississippi and the history of Mississippi, you know, this is the state where Emmett Till was.
It's worth being precise here about what changed and what didn't. The Sheriff's Department's core position, drowning suspected, no evidence of foul play, investigation ongoing, has not shifted publicly. What changed is who else was now asking questions, and how loudly. By Wednesday, Crump was describing what he called inconsistencies in witness accounts, and confirmed the family had arranged for Wells's body to be flown to Washington, D.C. for a second, independent autopsy, one that would specifically look for injuries beyond what would be consistent with drowning. Crump also raised the racial dimension directly, rather than leaving it to online speculation. He told ABC News the family had concerns about how a case involving, in his words, a young black man and young white companions would be investigated in Mississippi, invoking the state's history as a point of context for why the family wanted outside oversight. By Friday, that concern had a stage. The family appeared publicly for the first time since Wells' death was confirmed, at a press conference in Harlem, alongside Crump and Rev. Al Sharpton, calling for what they described as a full, transparent, and urgent investigation, and the timely release of every investigative record. At that press conference, the family's attorneys laid out the specific details driving their concern, and 2 days earlier, Wells's parents had already laid out the same concerns themselves, in their own words, in an interview with Good Morning America.
We have the honor and the privilege of helping to lead an independent investigation on behalf of the family of Nolan Wells. Why do you say we need to be retained to lead an independent investigation? It is because the family has distrust of the Mississippi law enforcement officials giving them a fair investigation where their black son ended up dead after going out on a boat with 3 young white men. The history of Mississippi is something that they don't just read about in books, but it's a lived experience for many black Americans, that oftentimes when our children are killed in highly questionable situations. That there is this notion that, oh, it was nothing wrong, no foul play, let's just sweep it under the rug. Well, we refuse to sweep it under the rug. We refuse to just let Nolan Wells' death be in vain.
According to Crump, the friends who left Horn Island without Wells took his phone and keys with them when they went. The family says they used a phone tracking app to locate the device once it reached land. Christine Wonsley told GMA that when she went to retrieve the phone from Wells' friends, she and her sister went through it themselves. She said his 2 Snapchat accounts were completely empty. No messages, no photos, despite Snapchat content typically remaining visible for 24 hours. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat, she said, adding that even her sister's reaction was that it looked suspicious.
When we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps, like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like, there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's suspicious, you know.
Speaking separately, ahead of Friday's press conference, Crump said plainly that the family is not accepting that Wells drowned accidentally. Christine Wonsley's own words, on air, were more measured than her attorney's. We just want honesty and transparency. We want a thorough investigation. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else.
We did this because, once again, what we're wanting is transparency, right? Although I do absolutely respect law enforcement, just the fact that the, accidental drowning thing, it made both me and his father uncomfortable. Why are we so quick to rush to this? And we just, at the end of the day, we want answers. This has been very impactful.
Separately, a factual detail has emerged that doesn't rely on any family interpretation. A friend of Wells called the Coast Guard around 11 p.m. on July 4th. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office did not request Coast Guard assistance until around noon the following day. A gap of roughly 13 hours between that first call for help and the official search request. Investigators have not yet publicly explained that gap. Crump also posed a direct hypothetical to reporters, asking how differently he believed an investigation would unfold in Mississippi if the racial roles in the case were reversed. That is his stated argument, not a documented fact about this investigation. But it's the argument the family is making publicly, and it's a significant part of why this case has drawn national attention. The family's account has not existed in a vacuum. Mississippi Congressman Benny Thompson has publicly called for a full, transparent, and timely investigation. The National NAACP issued a statement of support for the family, and the Jackson County NAACP has said it's separately monitoring the case. Not every account from the island supports the family's read of events. A volunteer with the United Cajun Navy, one of the groups that took part in the search, told reporters the beach had been crowded that day, that some people present had been drinking, and that strong rip currents were active. A version of events consistent with an accidental drowning, independent of anything involving a phone or a text message. And a family friend whose stepson was on the trip has said the group left Horn Island around 4:30 that afternoon because their boat was taking on water, and they had a mechanical issue with the bilge pump. An account that offers a more mundane explanation for why the group left when they did, separate from any suggestion that Wells was abandoned. Both of those accounts exist alongside the family's, not in place of it. None of them, on their own, resolve the question the family is asking. As of this recording, nothing about the official cause or manner of Wells' death has changed. Investigators still say they suspect drowning and do not currently have evidence of foul play. No charges have been filed, and no one has been named a suspect. The independent autopsy the family commissioned was expected to produce results this week. Whether that changes the picture is, at the time of this recording, still unknown. What has changed is the shape of the public conversation. What started as a missing persons case, then became a viral video story, is now something closer to a test of how thoroughly an investigation gets conducted when a grieving family says publicly and repeatedly that they don't trust the answer they've been given yet. It's worth sitting with what the family is actually asking for. Not a predetermined conclusion, not an accusation with a name attached, just the records, the timeline, and the forensic findings released in full, on a schedule they can see. Whether the independent autopsy confirms what investigators already suspect or complicates it, the questions the Wells family raised in Harlem on Friday will still need answers either way. That's the part of this case that doesn't depend on which version turns out to be right. Thank you for watching Morbid True Crime. Subscribe for more documentary investigations examining the psychology and evidence behind real criminal cases. This case remains active. We'll follow up as confirmed developments emerge.